growing up, my parents were both engineers, and they would say, you can do whatever you want with your life, but it has to start with an engineering degree. And so we always would joke like, oh, we're going to become an artist with an engineering degree. My first job out of college was working for Philadelphia cream cheese.
Really?
And we were making Philadelphia cream cheese more spreadable by adjusting the moisture in the curd and whey components, putting an infrared sensor in, having a feedback loop to the centrifuge that divided curds and whey, and adjusting the moisture. The idea being that if you had consistent water content, Philly cream cheese nationwide would be consistently spreadable.
So did you come up with the whipped cream cheese idea?
I didn't come up with anything other than adjusting a centrifuge through a feedback loop at a plant in Rupert, Idaho, a little town of 6,000 people, about 2.5 hours away from Salt Lake City. So that was my first job. But I've always had like this tinkering kind of mentality. And in the course of our practice, we treat a lot of patients from various ethnic groups, Polish, Hispanic, Asian, and a lot of them have these home remedies for treating pain. And one thing that kept coming up was that people said, when I have joint pain, I put cabbage leaves on my knees, my hips, my ankles, and it works. And I said, does it really work? So I would hear this over and over and over again. And we started hearing this in like 2013. And just to give you an idea how long it took me to get off my butt and do something about it, it was 2021. So 8 years of hearing this. But at some point, I just said, like, what is this cabbage, like this recurring cabbage leaf thing going on? And so I looked at it, I Googled it, did some research, and there's actually a study in like 2016 that looked at folks in nursing homes who had knee arthritis, and they compared usual care, which was like Voltaren gel or like oral anti-inflammatories, to applying cabbage leaves and wrapping them to their knees. And the people with cabbage leaves did better.
Really?
And it was like, what? This cabbage leaf, this hidden cabbage leaf. So then we said, all right, well, we're not going to sell cabbage leaves, right? But what do? You can't just walk around with like cabbage leaves on your joints. So we said, how do we come up with cabbage leaf extract? And I would talk to these Polish women. I'd say like, what do you do with these cabbage leaves? And they'd say, oh, I take like a meat hammer, and I beat the cabbage leaves, and then I put it on my knees. And then other women would say like, oh, you didn't know that's how we treat breast engorgement. You put cabbage leaves in if you are breastfeeding, and that's how you treat. And so there's all this data. Yes, there's data on breast engorgement for cabbage leaves. So it's like, holy crap, I just thought this was for Bigos, right? So we started doing cabbage. We hired a chemist to come up with, I'm a chemical engineer, but I don't know how to make a cabbage leaf extract formula that's like a skin cream. So I hired a chemist through Upwork, which is one of these job sites like Fiverr, Upwork, where you just say, I need to come up with a cabbage leaf lotion. And some chemist in some foreign country will say, I'm happy to do it. Here's my bid. You hire them, you pay them, and they do it. And they send you the formula. So they sent us the formula, and they're like, okay, now we got the formula. What do we do with it? Got to find someone to manufacture it. So for about a year over lunch, I would call factories around the world that manufactured lotions and cosmetics and said, I'm the schmuck in Chicago. I've got this cabbage leaf formula. I need to make a lotion for it. And most people are like, dude, what? And just hang up the phone. Well, enter Korea, right? Home of Korean beauty, like ISO certified manufacturing facilities, contract manufacturing, and Korean factories have a lot of experience with cabbage leaf because of cabbage is like a vital part of the diet, kimchi, and also with it is a natural extract, fermented products. So we found a factory in Korea that agreed to make the first run of 10,000 tubes. And
10,000 tubes?
10,000 tubes.
How big is the tube?
It's like a toothpaste tube. The minimum run is 10,000. And they say, wire over this money and we'll produce you these tubes. And I had never met this factory. And I was like, I'll have good reviews. They contract for major beauty manufacturers.
How did you make that decision to wire them all the money without seeing them? Did you go and visit?
With trepidation. I was like, I may never see this money again.
Or the cabbage extract, right?
Yeah. But they said, send us whatever the initial investment is. You send us half of the production cost ahead of time. We'll produce it when we get around to it because it's a small batch, and you'll send the other half, and then we'll get it to America. In the meantime, design the packaging. So I was like, how in God's name do I design the packaging? So Upwork.com. And I put in, I need a packaging designer to help me design a logo, packaging. I need it to meet these requirements. We can't make these medical claims that we can't substantiate. Sure enough, some guy who's a packaging designer in Serbia says, I can do this. He bids on the project, comes up with the packaging. It takes us like 45 days back and forth to design the packaging, send it over to the factory in Korea. They say, we can get a packaging supplier to do all the stuff. We get the tube, we get the stuff. They send over some samples. The only indication I had that this was in fact going to result in something was that they sent over some samples.
How long did it take from the moment you wired the money and you had to wait to see the product to see if you got fooled or you actually are going to produce this stuff?
6 months of me saying to my kids, there may not be Thanksgiving this year, but 6 months. But then we got the product. It came in first batch of 10,000 tubes. And then we just started giving a tube to every one of our patients. And then we gave out some tubes at this Polish pielgrzymka. And then last year we gave out some tubes at this Biegnie Podległości or whatever. We just started giving out a lot of samples. I have no idea how to market a consumer product. I was in the chemical engineering division of Philadelphia Cream Cheese, not the marketing division. So we started doing it, and this thing just started to get legs of its own. And people are like, holy crap, this works. And we're like, well, how does it work? We did some additional research. There's like all these in these cruciferous vegetable families. So it turns out cabbage is in the mustard family, along with broccoli, cauliflower, all this stuff. And there are these phytonutrients which have natural anti-inflammatory benefits. It's actually like legit. And so we make this stuff. It sells. We have reordered from the Korean factory. We've reordered again. Our next batch is actually coming in. It's ready for shipment. It's on the vessel from Busan, Korea to Los Angeles for 14 days, which means it's coming in after the 25% tariffs hit. Ouch. But that's okay. Live and learn. And we'll pay our tariffs and then we'll have it. And
how many thousands of tubes you had to order this time?
Each order is 20,000. We do 20,000 batch orders, and then they produce those for us. Every time I wire the money over, though, it's always like, we'll get to it when we can, because we're a small client of theirs. And I'm always like, is it really going to work this time? Because they've never failed to deliver, but I always kind of worry, like, where am I sending this money? And it's funny because when you go to wire the money over, it says Korea North or Korea South. And I'm always like, I have this nightmare that I'll choose North Korea and like the people come to my door and arrest me for sending funds to North Korea. It's South Korea, I promise.
That is fascinating, but it shows that a surgeon who runs a very busy clinic, right, has time to come up with a product, to organize it. Sounds like from behind of your computer screen.
Yeah, I got it. All the credit goes to the Polish, Hispanic, and Asian patients that were like, cabbage leaves. Greg, it took me 8 years of hearing cabbage leaves to be like, all right, maybe there's something here with cabbage leaves.
That is a fascinating story. I'm even more amazed that you found the time to actually make it happen. That is spectacular.
My kids like to say, you can just do things. And the truth is, you can just do things. And the internet makes it, you can literally today say, I would like to do X. Go to Upwork.com. And there is somebody in this world, or Fiverr.com. I'm not a paid spokesman for these places. But for these websites, there is someone in this world with the skill set to do it for you. And then it's just a matter of like making a punch list and getting a bunch of no's until someone says, okay, that sounds crazy, but I'll do it. Here's the other tricky, let me just persevere on this Korea point, but I don't remember how exactly the formal names are, but I'm pretty sure the name for North Korea is the Democratic People Republic of Korea. And I'm like, wait a minute, is that the good one or the bad one? The Democratic People's Republic? I don't know. It's tricky. It's tricky stuff. I was sweating. I still sweat. Make sure I don't choose the wrong one.